Hello, today we are going to install the Arch Linux operating system on a QEMU Virtual Machine with the KDE Plasma desktop, and then set up the KDE build system kdesrc-build. So this is the Wikipedia page for Arch Linux. Says that it started in the year 2002 by this person, and you spell it arch enemy, like arch enemy, so the name is arch, not arc. Okay, let's go to its website to download the installation media, the ISO file. Where is it? There's an installation guide, and it recommends that I download a BitTorrent. Netboot. Okay, let me find out or download the ISO somehow. And I'll be back. So I scroll down the page. The page starts with recommending that you use BitTorrent, but then it also has a mirror list of websites around the world that carry the ISO. Okay, let's go to the United States. Where are you? Not easy. Pick a random mirror there. And then we want the largest file there. So there's 808 megabytes. Arch Linux ISO with no version, or this is with a version. So version is 2023.10.14. Okay, and my architecture is AMD 64 or x86-64. Okay, let's download this thing. So less than 1 gigabyte. Let's go back to details about the Arch Linux operating system. So the package manager is pacman. It uses systemd, and it's a rolling release distribution. Once new source code releases appear from various open source projects, they are Arch Linux packages are being created and offered as binary packages for the people that have installed Arch Linux. So it's going to take a while. We'll pause a bit and wait for the download to finish. Okay, so the ISO has finished downloading. Let's create a virtual machine. I'm using Virt Manager, Virtual Machine Manager. File, new virtual machine, forward, select the ISO, Arch Linux, choose volume. It automatically detects the correct operating system. Let's go with 10 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go with 14 vCPUs, 250. Arch Linux is a good enough name. Finish. Says that it should start the virtual network. Okay. So the defaults seem okay on this page. In here they're always wrong. So just one socket, but 14 CPU cores. Okay, this should be Virt.io, and it is. This should be SATA and the ISO. Nick Virt.io. It looks great. So the only thing that I really needed to change was on the top CPUs. I went manually set CPU topology, replaced sockets 14 with sockets 1, and cores 1, I've replaced it with cores 14. So that's it, begin installation. Okay, so this is the bootloader. Install medium without speech. Okay. So it's booting into a live CD. And in here, I have the option to either install Arch Linux the classic way with chroot and /mnt, or there's the newer archinstall, which is this wizard in text user interface mode. Language English. What is this? Escape to skip, Control C, tab to select. Up. Back. Locales. English US, great. Disk configuration. Best F for default partition layout. What is that? I'm not sure what's going to do. Bootloader group. Swap on ZRAM. Okay. Hostname Arch Linux correct. Root password, user account. Add a user. Password. Should administrator have sudo power? Okay. So we have created the user. I still do not know what this configuration did. Profile, what is that? Set, modify the below options. It should be a desktop. It should be, where are you? KDE. Plasma Meta Console, Dolphin, Kwrite, Arc, EGL Wayland, Plasma Wayland Session. Okay, how do I exit this thing? Press enter. Greeter SDDM, yes, the KDE Desktop Manager. Audio. Pipewire. Kernels. The default is okay with me. So this configuration is probably going to be a surprise. Or not. Vert.io block device. Okay, ext4. Would you like to create a separate partition for home? No. Okay, no disk encryption. I would like a swap file. Would you like to use swap on ZRAM? but I do want swap. User account, profile, pipewire, network configuration, use network manager, automatic time sync, NTP, optional repositories, and additional packages. If you desire a web browser, I'm not sure how to do that. Firefox, 8, Emacs, no X, OpenSSH. What's the name of the OpenSSH package? Arch Linux packages OpenSSH server. So the package OpenSSH, okay, package contents should contain /usr/bin/sshd. Okay, so the name is OpenSSH. So let's set that value. Okay, Emacs no X. Okay, Kate. Great, MC. So we have a Plasma KDE Plasma desktop, a web browser Firefox. It says that it installs kwrite by default, so I want Kate. Emacs no X for a terminal, text user interface, text editor, OpenSSH because I want to connect to the machine using OpenSSH, the SSH client, MC, text user interface, Orthodox file manager. So space separated. Okay, the packages exist, so it checks. That's great. This should be it. We'll see if I did not configure something that was important. And I go install. And I can look at the configuration. I'm not sure it will install an Xorg server, but hopefully it does. Press enter to continue. So it installs into the virtual SSD /dev/VDA. Okay, creates a partition for UFB/boot, FAT32, ext4 for the rest of the slash partition. It's going to download 147 packages. Okay, so we'll pause for a bit and we'll continue once it approaches the finish line. The download speeds are really awful. So instead of 300 megabytes per second, it goes with 1 megabyte per second. 300 megabits per second. Maybe it picked a mirror that has a low speed. So it has downloaded some packages, 120, then installed them, then it's downloading some more. Builds the init CPO, which is the init RD, initial RAM disk. Installing grub, the bootloader. And now it's installing the additional packages that I have selected in archinstall. So I wanted network manager for managing network interface cards. I wanted pipewire for sound, even though it's a virtual machine and I'm not going to use the sound. It should be a arch install that uses KDE Plasma desktop in its most default setup. So KDE Plasma desktop definitely uses network manager. If you would configure KDE Plasma desktop in a default way, you would definitely use network manager, you would definitely have sound. So that's what I try to select in archinstall. And it would definitely have a web browser, and the web browser would definitely be Firefox. Okay. So this is xorg Emacs, NoX, Firefox, OpenSSH, MCK. So this is the list of packages, additional packages that I have selected. So 200 more Arch packages to download and install. So I'll pause some more. Okay. So it's now installing nano vim OpenSSH htop wget iwd wat4. Okay, and now it's 200 more packages for Plasma workspace. That also would have installed Qt, the text editor. So I see Dolphin, the file manager, Arc, the compression tool, Qt, the text editor. Many xorg packages. Okay, let's pause a bit again, because the download speed is so bad. Let's look a bit at the installation guide. So it says that I should download the ISO file, which I did, and you can check the signature to make sure that the ISO file has been downloaded correctly. I do not need a physical installation medium because I'm creating a virtual machine. Connect to the internet. Partition the disks using fdisk -L and fdisk, the disk to be partitioned. Select one partition for slash and then another partition for UEFI. Sample layouts. And make fs.ext4. Okay, so this is the installation guide that Arch Linux has always had since its beginning in 2002. This is the classic, the normal way to install, the default way of installing Arch Linux. by following a long, 100-step procedure, where you format partitions yourself from the command line, you mount things at /mnt, you go backstrap, then you go chroot. But luckily we have archinstall, which hopefully does as good installation as the installation method that's default, the one with 200 command lines that you should run from the console. Because that would speed things quite a bit. So again, we have two procedures of installing Arch Linux, the classic one, which is documented here in installation guide, and what I did, which is start Arch install, which is a text user interface application, and then try to select in there the correct options in the correct places. And you saw that it's not straightforward, it's not a wizard, it's not beginner friendly at all, because important things are hidden. It's actually a tree of configurations, and you must make sure that the entire tree is okay. Otherwise, you don't have sound, or you don't have network manager, etc. Okay. The last chance to chroot into the new installation. So we're still, the virtual machine is still running in live CD mode from the ISO, from the CD-ROM drive, and the virtual hard disk is mounted probably at /mnt, so we could go arch chroot inside there if we want to do additional settings, but we do not. So no, I would not like to chroot. You may reboot. Let's do that. So this is the systemd stopping. Okay, this is the GNU grub from the virtual hard disk. Let's see that the CD-ROM has disappeared, the ISO has disappeared from the CD-ROM, and in boot options we do not have the option of booting from CD-ROM, so just the option to boot from the virtual hard disk. Okay, so it booted correctly, the user administrator was created. In here we have the option to use Plasma X11, which we're going to use. And we're going to try to not use Virt Manager at all. So let's see if that's possible. Okay, first of all, we want to connect using SSH. Okay, says connection refused. Why? Maybe I also need to enable the SSH server, so let's do at least that. Login as administrator. Let's see how you set up the SSH server. So wiki arch open SSH. Install the SSH package. Which we did. Start enable SSHD. So that's probably the problem. Okay, so we have booted into KDE Plasma for the first time on this clean installation of Arch Linux, and the first time for the user administrator. Let's close the welcome wizard. We'll need console. This thing, let's make it favorite. So into favorites, console. Let's become super user. Okay, so this has been configured correctly. Let's go and see if SSHD is started or what's the status. Okay, so OpenSSH server is installed but stopped. So let's start it. And now it's running. If we can connect from the host machine using SSH, then probably there's no need for us to still be using Virt Manager to connect to the virtual machine. So let's actually log out. Okay. So we're inside the virtual machine. The next thing that we want to do is install enough packages such that I can survive at the command line. So that would be, let's find out the syntax of pacman. The package manager. Install packages with uppercase S. Okay, so we already have MC, Emacs, NoX. Let's go with Git. Okay, so says that Git GUI and Git K are not part of this package, which is okay. Next up, I want to set up a remote desktop protocol server such that I can connect to the virtual machine. Okay. Base devel. So I need AUR for that thing. Okay. And I need to not be super user. So Control D or not. So this requires sudo. Base devel was already installed. Okay, so now I am administrator. Let's create a directory for AUR. Okay, and I'm going to install YAY, which is a AUR package manager written in Go. Okay, so let's do that. So git clone a Git repository. Says that it's missing Go. How do we fix that thing? Like that. Install the Go package, which includes a standard Go compiler and other development tools. Okay, let's do that. Sudo pacman -s go. Okay, so this was missing from my notes. And now we can try to make package again. So it says that could not download a GitHub repository. This thing. Maybe I don't have, I do have internet connectivity, otherwise it would not have been able to git clone the Git repository. So it was just an intermittent networking issue, which is strange. Okay, so it created in the current directory a arch package, which is YAY with version, architecture, and .pkg.tar.zst, which stands for the Z standard compression algorithm. Okay. Next up, I need to install this thing. Proceed with installation, yes. Okay. And then let's go at the Arch wiki for the package that I really want to install, which is XRDP and Xorg XRDP. Says install the AUR package XRDP and install the Xorg XRDP AUR package, which is exactly what my notes do. Okay, what's asking here? Packages to install. Pulse audio from the AUR. And I can have a list. So what I want is AUR XRDP, which is 1. Then I'm not sure why it's asking these things. I want AUR XORG XRDP, which is 5. So I totally want this thing. I do not want any Git things. I want this guy. No NVIDIA, no Glamour. It asks me if I want sound in the virtual machine. And I usually do not use that, but I could add 12 in here. Okay, so let's go with 1 and 5. So 1 again is AUR XRDP, and 5 is AUR Xorg XRDP, which are the two AUR packages that I want to install. Packages to clean build all. Diffs to show, none. So it says that there's an intermittent networking issue, could not download the Xorg XRDP Git repository. It needs additional development Arch Linux packages for Xorg. It totally looks scary to just to install 2 packages, and totally not beginner friendly. You could mess this up in a million ways. Okay, so this is Git cloning the XRDP Git repository, configuring it, making it, so building it, and then installing it, and then creating a Arch package out of the result of the installation. YAY also tried to build Xorg XRDP, but failed because it could not git clone the Git repository for Xorg XRDP. Okay, and now it has created a package named XRDP, and then version, and then architecture, and then the extension. Asks if I want to install. Yes. And says that it failed to install Xorg XRDP, which it tried to download a package, a release of Xorg XRDP. Let's see if that exists. So release is v09.19. And then tar gz, this thing. github.com, neutrino labs, Xorg XRDP releases download v0919, Xorg XRDP 0919 tar gz. So the file totally exists in here. So I'm going to try another time. This time I am going for the package Xorg XRDP. I'm not sure why it looks into AOR and see all of the packages with names starting Xorg XRDP and asking me which of those I want to install. I want to install this one, the AOR package with the exact name match. So 1. Packages to clean build all. Divs to show none. I'm not sure what it did. It said that it failed to download the source code release tarball, but then it retried something and it managed to actually download it. Okay, and it also downloaded the signature, the digital signature file, the SHA-SUM. Okay, it checked that the source code release tarball of Xorg XRDP is correct, so was downloaded correctly. Then it goes GNU configure, and then probably GNU make, and then install and create a Arch Linux package, this one, Xorg XRDP. So building Xorg XRDP was successful. Do I want to install? Yes. Okay, so we're done with this part. So let's enable XRDP. Control C, so do not forget that you need to be super user. Okay, let's see the status of the thing. It's running, listening on port 3389. Okay, let's look at the the last steps. There's no such file, so let's create it. Sudo su emacs, the name of the file, just one line, Ctrl XS, XC. Let's go cat on this thing. Okay, so the file should have just one line, allowed underscore users equals anybody, which it does. And now the setting for the user administrator, this thing, no such file or directory. So emacs, this thing should contain 2 lines. Okay. So export desktop session Plasma, USR lib Plasma dbus run session if needed, start Plasma etc. Okay. Let me restart the machine just in case, the virtual machine, and then we'll try to reconnect both with OpenSSH and using a remote desktop protocol RDP client. So sudo reboot. Okay. So hopefully the machine finished rebooting. We were able to connect using OpenSSH. I'm going to open a new tab in console on the host machine, where I'm going to try to connect with the RDP client X3 RDP. So this thing, paste. The username is administrator, but the IP address ends with 122. It says you never connected to this machine. Do you want to trust it? I am going to go uppercase Y. Let's see if I can connect. Okay, so I have been able to connect using the RDP client named FreeRDP to the virtual machine. The command line was this one, which I have it in my notes. Okay, it's the first time it has connected. The KDE Plasma desktop has started inside of the virtual machine. The resolution of the KDE Plasma desktop is the exact resolution that is required. So starting from this point to this point, which is less than 1080p, a very strange resolution, but what the FreeRDP client tells the Linux operating system that the resolution should be, that the resolution is being set by KDE Plasma. So nothing is stretched, everything is shown as crisp and clear as possible. Next up, I'm going to start recording just the interior of the FreeRDP window. Just a second. So we are connected to the virtual machine using the RDP protocol, remote desktop protocol. Next up, so we have the KDE Plasma desktop, we have the text editor Kate, and we have a web browser Firefox. Next up, we will set up the KDE build system, kdesrc-build. So let me first do a bit of terraforming here. Okay. And now we're going to use private window. In the right-hand side of the screen, we'll have the documentation. In the left, we'll have a console, a terminal. Okay, so first off, the KDE official website, kde.org, the homepage. Get involved. Development. Okay, says that Arch Linux is a supported operating system for kdesrc-build and that we should set up kdesrc-build. For Arch, we should run this thing. I'm not sure why there's dialog in here or cmake. So let's go with just git. So git should have been installed or not. I've installed it after I connected using the OpenSSH client. Reinstalling it. Okay. We're not going to configure git because we do not want to write to the KDE Git repositories, just read from them. And then we set up kdesrc-build. We run this command line block. Okay. So we're inside the directory tilde/kd/src/kdesrc-build. In here we have the git clone of the git repository kdesrc-build from the KDE community. Okay, this is the URL invent.kde.org/sdk/kdesrc-build. Okay, and then the next step is inside of this directory. We have two executable files, kdesrc-run and kdesrc-build. These are source code files, but then they are written in Perl, so there's nothing to compile. We just git clone and execute. Okay, so it starts installing packages. There's 261 packages to install. I'll pause a bit and I'll be back once it finishes installing. So kdesrc-build is a build framework, knows how to build many of the KDE Git repositories, including the 90 KDE frameworks version 6. And will install from the Linux operating system binary packages such that all of those KDE frameworks version 6 can be compiled correctly, built correctly using kdesrc-build. Okay, let's see what kdesrc-build actually does. So it's installing packages. This is the initial setup. Okay, just a second. Okay, so kdesrc-build initial setup has finished installing many binary packages from Arch Linux. Configure them. And then it asks if I want to edit my bash RC, which I do not. So the default option is no. I'm going to press enter. It has created a configuration file in this place, so tilde/.config/kdesrc-build rc, so with an R and a C at the end. And I'm going to move it from whatever it is to the current directory. Again, the current directory is tilde/kd/src/kdesrc-build. Next up, I'm going to look at the configuration file, at this file. So in the current directory, kdesrc-build, then an rc at the end. Okay, so this is correct, these directories are correct. So It uses three directories, ~kde/usr, ~kde/src-build. The number of cores this virtual machine has 14 vCPUs, so let's go with 14. The rest of so everything is kept as is, as was created by kdesrc-build initial setup. The only thing that I really change is the line 37 num cores. I put the real number of virtual CPUs on this virtual machine, so 14. Okay. When you increase the number of cores, you need to make sure you have enough random access memory, and I have 10 gigabytes of RAM allocated to this virtual machine. Okay, so I'm skipping any configuration which is related to the command line shell. I'm not doing anything specific to bash, to z, sh, to fish, to anything. So I'm skipping all of this part. The trade-off is that I always must be in this directory, ~kd/src/kdesrc-build, when I want to run one of the two executables, which are kdesrc-build or kdesrc-run. And since kdesrc-build and kdesrc-run are not in the path, I need to prepend any command line with a /. So the path environment variable does not contain the current directory, which is, where are you? This thing. And the two executables kdesrc-run and kdesrc-build are not in one of these directories that exist in the path environment variable, and that we can see by using the command which. So which kdesrc-build doesn't show anything. Okay, so always change into directory into this directory, and then use /kdesrc-build and /kdesrc-run. Okay, next up says that we should set up Qt. So we need Qt at least 6.5. How can we check that? We should list the list of packages installed by Pacman and see the version of Qt. But Arch being a rolling release, it totally has probably Qt 6.6, which was released a couple of days ago. Okay, so we certainly have the version 6.5. In case you cannot build some KDE Git repositories, maybe it's because one of these packages have not been installed automatically by kdesrc-build initial setup. In that case, you install them from this list. So collapse expand. Okay, let's ignore this thing for now, and let's go for disable indexing of your development environment, because we're going to git clone a ton of files, compile, install. We're going to create a ton of hard disk operations inside of the directory ~kd. So we want this directory to not be monitored by a security software, a antivirus, file indexer, etc. Okay, system settings. Let's search for index, file search. I'm going to disable the file index because it's a virtual machine and I don't have any interesting files on this machine. Okay, next up says that we should start compiling software using kdesrc-build. So the command line is kdesrc-build, and then as parameter you give it the name of a KDE Git repository. So this is the KDE Git repositories, invent kd.org/utilities/kcalc. If we want to build it, we go kdesrc-build kcalc. So the last word in the, what comes after the last slash in the URL of the KDE Git repository. Okay. So whenever I finish installing kdesrc-build, I make sure that kdesrc-build was configured correctly in the following way. So I go /kdesrc-build kconfig, then kdesrc-build kcalc. Kcalc is the KDE desktop calculator, which is not installed here, so this thing, kcalc. Then I'm going to run kcalc to make sure that it was built using Qt6. And then I'm going to build the rest of the KDE frameworks, which is done like this. And since the KDE Plasma desktop uses Qt5, but kdesrc-build uses Qt6, there will be theming issues. The Qt6 applications built using kdesrc-build will not use the correct theme. For that, we will need to build Plasma integration, another KDE Git repository. Okay, so let's start doing. So again, be in the correct directory, which is this one. And always prepend the invocations of kdesrc-build and kdesrc-run with a /. Okay. So we told kdesrc-build that it should build kconfig. What is kconfig? KDE invent kconfig. It's this Git repository, https://invent.kde.org/framework/kconfig. In order to build this Git repository correctly, we first need to build another KDE Git repository correctly, which is this one, extra CMake modules. Okay. We told kdesrc-build to build kconfig. It knows there's no point in building kconfig because it will fail. It needs to build extra CMake modules first. In order to find out the order of dependencies, first of all, it clones another KDE Git repository, which is called sysadmin repo metadata, where there's metadata which says kconfig depends on extra CMake modules. And then the dependencies will actually create a dependency tree, and kdesrc-build will build that dependency tree in the correct order. Okay, kdesrc-build has 3 directories. Inside ~KDE, there's the directory src, where the Git repositories are cloned. So this is a Git repository. You can see the hidden .git directory. This is where we started. So we first git clone kdesrc-build and run kdesrc-build initial setup. This is also a Git repository. Then we went kdesrc-build kconfig, which has git cloned these 3 repositories: sysadmin repo metadata, extra CMake modules, kconfig. So this is one, sysadmin repo metadata, extra CMake modules, the second, and the third, the final one, the one that we actually wanted, is kconfig. Okay. These directories just contain a git clone, nothing else, no build artifacts, no intermediate files, no generated files. All of those are created in here, in ~kd/build, and then the name of the Git repository. So in here, CMake has created a ton of files. In kconfig, CMake configure has created a ton of files. Files were generated, and then inside of the bin directory, we have the files generated by the compile step, which was run by CMake, which was run by Ninja, which then uses the G++, GCC, C++, and C programming language compilers. So these are, in fact, executables. Yes, these are executables, and these files ending in SO are shared libraries, so similar to dynamic link libraries in Windows. You can see which is an executable by going properties and permissions. You can see that it's executable. Okay, so the step cloning took place in ~kd/src/extra CMake modules. The step running CMake configure targeting ninja happened in the directory ~kd/build extra CMake modules. The step compiling ninja took place in the same directory ~kd/build/extra CMake modules. But then the step installing, which does mean ninja install, takes files from this directory, so from ~kd/build extra CMake modules, and puts it in the directory ~kd/usr. So similar to what you have in your /usr from your Linux operating system. There's directories, subdirectories in ~kd/usr for executables, for shared libraries, for CMake files, for C and C++ programming language include header files like this. And then miscellaneous files inside of share. So icon themes, translations, data files, etc. Okay, so we did this step. Now let's build kcalc. So there's 22 KDE Git repositories that need to be git cloned and built. There are other Git repositories that are being cloned and built that are not part of the KDE project, such as this Wayland, and there's GPGME, and there might be others. Okay, so KDE Git repos, there's 90 KDE Git repositories of type KDE Framework 6. You can see them because kdesrc-build says building something from frameworks. So kconfig is actually a KDE Framework version 6. And kcodecs also, and kcore add-ons also. So we told kdesrc-build to build a graphical user interface desktop calculator application, but that depends on 20 other Git repositories which need to be git cloned, configured, built, and installed. Only after that, it will actually git clone, configure, make, and install the actual Git repository that we care about, which is kcalc. We'll pause a bit until kdesrc-build finishes. Okay, so we have finished building the KDE Git repository for the kcalc. Next up, we're going to actually run the application. Make sure that the application is actually using Qt6, so built by kdesrc-build, not Qt5, which would be from the Arch Linux operating system. So it's 6.6 version of Qt. Great. And then the KDE frameworks is the Git version, 5.240, the latest version of the KDE frameworks 6. Okay. So this is the application. Because it does not know about the Qt6 KDE's theming, it uses a theme that's provided by Qt framework instead of using the theme that's provided by KDE Plasma that the user has actually selected in system settings, in appearance. So it doesn't use Breeze, it uses something else. In order to fix that problem, you're going to run kdesrc-build Plasma integration. Let's do that. Let's build frameworks first. Okay, so it says 86 Git repositories. Most are KDE frameworks, but not all of them. There's these Plasma Wayland protocols, which is a KDE library, and there's Wayland, which is a Git repository that's not from the KDE community. Some of these 86 Git repositories have already been built, so kdesrc-build does not do rebuild, does build. So incremental build. If a Git repository was already built, it makes sure the source code did not change, and if not, it's going to say that everything was already configured, built, and installed, and it's going to go fast at the next Git repository. kdesrc-build names these Git repositories modules, so this is a module. Whereas from frameworks would be a module set, so frameworks is a module set, and extra CMake modules is a module. Okay, there's some modules that could be built successfully, some that have GCC compiler warnings. Okay, and in parallel, while it's taking each module, configuring, building, and installing it, it's also Git cloning needed Git repositories. Because the Git clone speed might be slow, it's done on a separate thread, as it were. Okay, that's why you have the output from building the module case service mixed with the output from doing a Git clone. Okay, so this is another non-KDE Git repository, GPG-ME. So we're at 1/4 of the modules out of the 86 modules built, 22 out of 86. We'll pause a bit and we'll be back after it finishes. Okay, so it failed at module 43 out of 86, crossing CPP. Next up, we want to look at the help of kdesrc-build. There's this command line parameter to resume from. And we want to resume from this thing. Maybe it was a Git clone issue, so a network issue. Okay, and the command line is frameworks. So I want kdesrc-build to build all of the module set frameworks with all of their dependencies, but not start from extra CMake modules, the first Git repository, but start from crossing CPP. Okay, so there's something wrong about this access to this Git repository. Which is this repository. And now it worked. So I'm not sure why inside of this virtual machine I have networking issues related to GitHub. Okay, so we're building the KDE frameworks, 82 Git repositories, but we've started at the middle somewhere at the module zxeing.-cpp. So there's 40 Git repositories to build from this place on. So I'll be back once the kdesrc-build finishes building the frameworks. Okay, so it has finished all of the KDE frameworks without any errors. This is great, and we should stop the screen recording here because that's our aim, to install kdesrc-build and make sure that at least the KDE frameworks version 6 build. But we're going to go one step further, build and install Plasma integration such that we can see that KCalc, the desktop calculator, uses the correct theme that has been configured in KDE Plasma version 5 in system settings by the user. Another Git failure. Okay, so 48 Git repositories to git clone, configure, build, and then install if they haven't been already. Most of them are from the KDE frameworks, but we just already built all of the KDE frameworks, so either a module that's part of KDE frameworks does not need to be built at all, or there's some minor incremental change which will make the build be fast. Okay, and it says that it could not build upstream because it was a GitHub error. So let's go again. GPGME has always something to update. It doesn't use CMake like most of the KDE Git repositories. This uses a GNU auto tools configure GNU make toolchain. And something's wrong in there because there's always something to build in GPGME, even if it's very up to date. Okay, so what we're building here is we're taking Qt6 from Linux, Arch Linux binary packages, but everything that sits on top of Qt6 will be rebuilt. So GPGME uses Qt6, so we're rebuilding GPGME. All of the KDE libraries, frameworks, applications use Qt6, so we're rebuilding that. Okay, we're at the theming part. So Oxygen is icons theme. Breeze is a application theme, so the look and feel of buttons, checkboxes, etc. These will need to be built for Qt6. Arch Linux currently has KDE Plasma desktop based on Qt5. So the Qt5 themes have already been installed from Arch Linux packages, but we also need to install Qt6 versions of the various themes using kdesrc-build. And that's what we're doing here. Because if in system settings says that the graphical user interface theme to use is Breeze, Breeze already exists in the Qt5 variant installed from Arch Linux packages, but does not exist in the Qt6 variant. That's why kdesrc-build knew that it should build it. So now we have a Breeze, the theme Qt6 version from built using kdesrc-build, and Qt5 version was installed as a dependency of the KDE Plasma desktop from Arch Linux packages. Okay. Now, if we run the same command line that we ran previously, kdesrc-run kcalc, we will see that kcalc now respects the theme that the rest of the applications use. So, for instance, previously, if I hovered on top of the main menu, it didn't show this highlight with a blue background as the rest of the application. So this Kate is a Qt5 application installed from Arch Linux packages, whereas kcalc is a Qt6 application installed using kdesrc-build. And you can see that the theme resembles. Okay, and previously kcalc used to show underscore below the F, uppercase F letter for the kcalc main menu item file. So those were the accelerators. Now the accelerators are only shown if I press the Alt key on my keyboard, the same way that Kate, which is a Qt5 application, works. Also, the buttons look okay. The scroll bar is the one from Breeze, from the Breeze theme, so the same that we're using in Qt5 applications. Okay, and these tabs are using the theme that's specified in system settings. So that was it. We've downloaded the latest ISO installer for Arch Linux. We've installed it in QEMU Virtual Manager KVM Virtual Machine. We didn't use the official Arch Linux installation instructions, which is the 200 steps procedure. Instead, we've used the Arch Linux executable that exists in the Arch Linux install ISO, which provides a tree of settings that you should perform. So there's settings for creating a user, setting the name of the computer, that the fact that we want network management to be done by network manager package, what bootloader to use. We've used grub. The partitioning scheme, we went with ext4, not a separate /home partition. So all of those things could be configured in Arch install executable. And also in there, we've selected that just the desktop KDE Plasma be installed. That meant that Xorg was installed, SDTM, the desktop manager, was installed. Kate, console, and Dolphin, the file manager. Additionally, in Arch install, we've also selected to install Firefox, which is a web browser, and the OpenSSH server. Then we've finished installing, we've connected to the virtual machine, we've booted the virtual machine the first time, we've enabled the SSH server, then we've stopped connecting to the virtual machine using Virt Manager. Instead, we've connected to the virtual machine using the SSH client, and X3RDP, SSH client for text user interface connections for terminal, and X3RDP for graphical user interface connection. Then inside of the virtual machine, we've set up kdesrc-build following the official procedure. kdesrc-build nowadays uses defaults to using Qt6. kdesrc-build initial setup has installed many Arch Linux packages such that we can build Qt6 version of the KDE frameworks. And then after we finished installing and configure kdesrc-build, we ran these command lines. So we built kconfig, which is just 3 KDE Git repositories, then kcalc, which is a desktop application. We've run correctly kcalc. We've built all of the KDE frameworks version 6, 82 Git repository, and we've built Plasma integration such that the applications built using kdesrc-build, which use Qt6, use the same theming as the KDE Plasma desktop installed from Arch Linux, which uses Qt5. Thank you.